It's Tuesday, so that means it's time for another top 10 video. Now, my patrons voted last week, and I've kind of been doing an every other week thing, so the winner for the first week and then the runner-up get voted on. So this time we're going to be talking about my top 10 Fey monsters in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. This is actually going to be a top 5 because, honestly, there is a criminally minimal amount of official 5e Fey creatures, and I couldn't get 10 that I was excited enough about to make a full video on, so we're just going with 5. So if you want to see what those are and the rules and everything behind it, stay tuned. There needs to be more monsters of different types. See Kobold Press's Tome of Beasts for more. Anyway, folks, hi, I'm Ted. This is Nerd Immersion, and welcome to another, I guess, top 5 Tuesday. Before we jump in, though, I did want to do an analytics talk. We haven't done one of these in a while, so I thought I would try something different, and it's the 6th of October. So I thought I would just do a quick discussion about my analytics for October so far. So, I mean, in a crazy thing to think about, 53,000 of you have watched videos for me in the first 5 days, 6 days of October. And out of that, if we look at our analytics numbers here, 47% of those 53,000 are not subscribed to the channel. So if that number went and subscribed to the channel, we would blow past 75,000 subscribers and we'd be well on our way to 100,000, which is crazy to think about. I didn't think I'd ever be where I'm at right now. And like now that this is a discussion, that's nutty. Anyway, putting that aside, all it has to be is an official, for this video, a Fey creature that has a Fey subtype. And it has to be an official monster. No homebrew, no third-party stuff. I'm counting this something that appeared in a Wizards published product. That means something that Wizards put out, whether that be an adventure module, a book like a monster book like Mordenkainen's or Volo's, or so on. So let's dive right in. Number 5. Boggles. These are just, they're nothing too crazy. I mean, this is my list. It's not like the best or the hardest or anything like that. It's just my list. They're challenge rating 1/8, so they're super small, like on the scale of what's dangerous. But for a challenge rating 1/8, they do have 18 hit points, which is not anything small to think about. But just their features, I think, are what's kind of unique. Because if you look at this is a pretty substantial stat block for something that is only a challenge rating 1/8. It also does have resistance to fire and then, you know, a couple of skill proficiencies. But the big thing about Boggles are their oil and their dimensional rift abilities. So you can see the Boggle oil, right? They excrete an oil from their pores, which you can kind of see here in the image. And they can choose whether it's slippery or sticky and can change it as a bonus action. So if it's slippery, while coated in slippery oil, it has advantage on acrobatics checks to escape bonds, squeeze through narrow spaces, and escape grapples. Or if it's sticky, it gains advantage on a strength athletics check to maintain a grapple and any ability check made to maintain a hold on a creature, a surface, or object. It can also climb difficult surfaces, including upside down, without needing an ability check when using this oil. It also can do a very cool Fey thing, very Fey in its description here, as Dimensional Rift. As a bonus action, it can create an invisible and immovable rift within an opening or a frame it can see within 5 feet, like a door frame or something like that. That is no bigger than 10 feet on any side. The dimensional rift bridges the distance between that space and any point within 30 feet that it can see. While next to the rift, it can see through it and is considered to be able to be next to the destination as well, and anything the Boggle puts through the rift emerges at the destination. Only the Boggle can use the rift, and it lasts until the end of the Boggle's next turn. So, like, it could punch through the rift to hit somebody and then, you know, disappear. It's very kind of gremlin-ish, so I like that. As its pummel attack, it does a d6 -1, so nothing crazy. And then I can make an oil puddle of its choice, either slippery or sticky, that is 1 inch deep and covers the ground within its space. That is difficult terrain, except for all creatures except Boggles, and lasts for an hour. If it's slippery, it's a DC 11 Dex saving throw or fall prone, and if it's sticky, it's a DC 11 Strength saving throw or be restrained. On their action, a creature can use an action to try to extricate itself from the sticky puddle, ending into the nearest unoccupied space with a successful DC 11 Strength check. And it's just, they're kind of little trickster types, which is kind of what we associate with Fae. I also thought this was interesting. Warlocks who form pacts with Archfey have been known to command Boggles. They're not technically listed, I don't believe, as an expanded option for Pact of the Chain Warlock, but if you happen to have a Pact of the Chain Warlock in your group that is an Archfey patron, you might consider giving them a Boggle. Also, these monsters are contained in Volo's Guide to Monsters. Number 4. Madcaps. This is sort of a demented, twisted version of the Red Cap, which is also kind of a weird creature anyway. Red Caps, I think, were introduced in Volo's Guide to Monsters. Madcaps were introduced in Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. So for those of you unfamiliar, a Red Cap is like a creature that soaks its hat in humanoid blood, and that's what kind of makes it become a Red Cap. But a Madcap is one that soaks its hat in demon ichor as opposed to blood, and that's what makes a Madcap. Which you can kind of see here. So they kind of have a lot of similar things that Red Caps have. The iron boots, so disadvantage on stealth checks. Outside strength while grappling is considered to be medium. Also, wielding a heavy weapon doesn't impose disadvantage on its attack rolls. It makes 3 attacks with its Wicked Sickle, which does 2d4 plus 4 slashing damage. It has Ironbound Pursuit. It moves up to its speed to a creature it can see and kicks with its iron boots. They must make a DC 14 Dex saving throw or take 3d10 bludgeoning damage and be knocked prone. Now, I don't love these specifically for their abilities. I like them for the lore behind them. And my favorite is this variant Madcap here. A Madcap is a red cap that soaks its hat in demon ichor instead of blood. Contact with demon ichor makes the creature even more psychotic, causing it to brood over irrational hatreds. And this is my favorite line. A group of madcaps will sometimes band together over a shared hatred of something, such as music, creatures with curly hair, the word cool, or the color blue. And that is such a stupid, fun thing you could do to just really mess with the players. Like, oh, they really hate blue, and you've got a water genasi in your party. Well, I guess they're going after them. Or they hate curly hair, and you have a halfling. I don't know, it's just really fun to think about. When a madcap drops to 0 hit points, its hateful existence comes to an end in a spectacular fashion as it bursts into flame, reducing itself, its ichor-soaked hat, and its pants to ashes instantly, while leaving behind its weapon and smoldering iron boots. I guess that's the variant, but I like the concept of like them hating the word cool and then banding together to try to destroy the word cool. I don't know. It has a lot of fun role play and interesting mechanics, and I'm sure. Let me know your best thought for what they could hate in the comments down below. Number 3. The Killmoulis, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's this weird gonzo-looking creature here that was introduced in Mordenkainen's Fiendish Folio Volume 1. I have done a full extensive review on that book here on the channel. You can go look it up. But this was something that was basically done for Extra Life, where they took a bunch of old 1st and 2nd edition they said Fiendish. I think it was the Fiend Folio. But they introduced, obviously, fake creatures. They introduced a bunch of old creatures from 1st and 2nd edition and brought them up to 5th edition. This was done in-house by Wizards, so it's technically official content. Anyway, this is interesting because they can either be super useful to a party or super detrimental to a party. And their challenge rating 0, so, nothing crazy. They have a slam attack that does 1 point, but they have these blessing or curses, which is the cool thing about them. So blessing of bountiful generosity. It targets up to 8 creatures within 100 feet of it that it can see. The next time a target finishes a long rest, it regains all spent hit dice and gains 10 temporary hit points. Or Curse of Poor Hospitality. Targets 8 creatures within 100 feet of it that it can see. The next time the target completes a long rest, it does not regain any spent hit dice. And yeah, there's a little bit of interesting lore around these creatures about how they can be super great for a party or super detrimental to a party. When kept well fed with tasty treats, this creature is a helpful assistant that mends armor, collects herbs, and makes the blandest rations into a feast, and turns a dull, uncomfortable campsite into a welcoming refuge. But if a party abuses or neglects it, mean-spirited thirst for revenge can turn even the simplest expedition into a draining ordeal that leaves adventurers tired, dispirited, and sullen. Again, we're playing in that sort of chaotic nature of the Fae. But again, this could be a really interesting thing to introduce your characters to. I don't know. I'm sure you guys can come up with interesting concepts in the comments down below. But I think this could be really fun, even if it's just like a temporary NPC. How like you got to treat it right, and it'll treat you right, but treat it wrong, and it'll treat you wrong. Number 2. The Valenar Hawk. These, as they are Valenar creatures, were introduced in Eberron Rising from the Last War. And basically, they are a fey spirit embodiment of a creature. There are a couple other ones, right? This is the Valenar Hawk. There is a Valenar, like, dog, hound, I think it's called. And a Valenar steed, which would be your, what's it called? Your, like, your fine steed or your horse or something like that. And basically, they're just, like I said, again, kind of almost like a familiar in that they're a fey spirit that embodies the shape of a creature. I think we have Valenar animals are awakened to advanced intelligence and power by the touch of an ancestral spirit. They choose elves as companions, typically reflecting a bond between the ancestor, the elf, and the animal. Again, this is Eberron lore, but you can see it's a pretty standard hawk overall with some decent hawk stats, but the kind of main thing of this is the bonding, right? The hawk can magically bond with one creature it can see immediately after spending at least 1 hour observing that creature while within 30 feet of it. The bond lasts until the hawk bonds with a different creature or until the bonded creature dies. While bonded, the hawk and the bonded creature can communicate telepathically with each other at a distance of up to 100 feet. So this basically is giving you the benefits sort of Find Familiar without actually having to take it. And I picked the hawk because I always had this concept for my one character that I'd mentioned in my character building video, my paladin, who is kind of like a ranger because he was very woodsy typed and used the Outlander background a lot. I thought it would be really cool to get to do possibly like Pact of the Chain warlock so that he could have a hawk familiar so that way he could use that for like scouting. And this kind of would get me around having to double dip or triple multi-class. I could just get a Valenar Hawk. Also, they do have ancestral traits, which are pretty cool down here. Each Valenar animal can be customized with an ancestral gift, a supernatural trait granted by its ancestral spirit. Choose a trait or roll on the table below. There are 8 options. So 1 is Bestow Luck. As a bonus action, it can choose a creature within 30 feet. The next ability check, attack roll, or saving throw with the next hour is made with advantage. That's a once a day. Burst of Speed, which recharges on a 6, lets it dash as a bonus action. Camouflage, it has advantage on stealth checks while outdoors. Lie Detector, it can detect if an animal's lying within 15 feet. Fey Ancestry, it has advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened, and magic can't put it to sleep, again, like an elf has. Fey Step, it can teleport up to 30 feet. It doesn't say once a day. It doesn't say what kind of action it does to do that. And then Quickness, it can take the dodge action as a bonus action on a recharge 6. And Shrouded Step, it can't be tracked by any magical means, it can't be tracked except by magical means, and it leaves behind no tracks or other traces of its passage. Again, reminder, this is bestowable to any Valenar creature. Some of those don't really necessarily apply to the hawk, like the not being tracked. If it's flying, that might not be the case, but if it's the hound or the steed, that's pretty cool. I think the real winner for me is probably like the Lie Detector. I think could be really good. The Camouflage, basically any of the ones that are kind of always on. Now the Teleport and the Luck is really nice, and the ones that recharge on a 6 are pretty good too, but I kind of like the ones that are always on. Let me know your favorite one in the comments. Number 1. Blink Dog. It's classic. I'm a dog person. I love dogs. This is probably one of my favorite creatures. I always like the concept of being like a small race and getting a Blink Dog as a mount for you to ride, so you could ride it and then also teleport with it. And I know that was a thing you could definitely do in older editions, and it's kind of up to the DM in 5th edition. But a Blink Dog is essentially slightly improved stats like Mastiff with the ability to teleport. That's sort of what makes it unique. Its bite attack might do a little bit. It also speaks its own language, which is Blink Dog, so it means anything that allows it to understand a language. It can, if there's a spell or something that means that it needs to understand a language, it can do so. It also understands a Sylvan, but it can't speak it. Has an intelligence of 10 as well, so it's pretty smart, and it might be smarter than people in your party. It has the advantage on perception checks with hearing or smell. It does have proficiency in perception and stealth. A minor damage and bite attack, but the big one again is the teleport. It teleports along with any equipment it is wearing or carrying up to 40 feet to an unoccupied space it can see. Before or after teleporting, it can make 1 bite attack, and that recharges on a 4 to 6, which is one of the largest recharges we have in 5th edition, a recharge ability that recharges on a 4 to 6. A blink dog would also be like a thing I would like to get for that same character I was talking about, like if it was possible. He was an Oath of the Ancients paladin. Perhaps Mialiki would be nice enough to grant him a blink dog or a Valenar Hawk or something like that. I also would love to... none of my players ever play elves in any of my games. And I love elves, personally. Probably has to go back to my archery roots and, being, in high school when the Lord of the Rings movies were coming out and things like that. So maybe that's where my love of elves comes from. But, I love the concept of elven ancestry and tying it into, the nature and the world and things like that. And none of my players ever play elves. A lot of half-elves because of the stats. But no one ever plays an elf, so I don't really get to deal with that whole, let's build that into your backstory and figure out what's happened, and maybe you have a connection with nature and any of that. Really, if they did, they just get so much more stuff from me. Anyway, folks, that's my top 5 Fey creatures. Again, there wasn't a ton of Fey creature options. I'm not really in love with the Fey hags. There's a bunch of Fey hags, but I really like the Night Hag's probably my favorite one. And there was a Ladrin, which are more like an NPC, and there was a couple of other random NPCs that exist out there that I didn't think NPCs were really worth it, or again, there's 4 different kinds of satyr. Satyr's okay, it's a good player race, but I didn't think I needed to comment on them. And again, rather than stretch it and try to find 5 things that I really liked, or that I liked enough to feel animated enough to make a video about them, I cut the list down to 5 to make it what I actually care about. So, again, let me know your favorite Fey creature in the comments down below. Was it on my list? Is it something different? Do you have a Fey creature you love from an older edition of D&D that you hope makes it into 5th edition? Let me know what that one is in the comments as well. And lastly, 2 things, or I guess 3 things, really. A Kickstarter that I'm a part of, Blackstorm Realms, which is basically your supplement for Spelljammer, because you're never going to get it in 5th edition. Or maybe you will, but not anytime soon. It's by Jetpack 7. They're good friends of mine. They have a demo up that you can go look at all the stuff that they've done in the past. But I'm actually a part of this Kickstarter. Soon to hopefully be a contributor if we raise enough money. I'll be designing subclasses for it. So that'll be cool. And I'm involved with that. It's going for another 30 days. There's a link in the description if you'd like to go check it out and back it for yourself. My Icewind Dale Rime of the Frostmaiden giveaway is still going on, and my emails have been sent out to finalize the gifts for my 50K giveaway, which I'm hoping to do either later this week, announce that either later this week or early next week, so that I can also get out my October giveaway, which I've been working on behind the scenes for a while, but I need to go pick up some supplies to make that final. So, anyway, thank you to my patrons over on Patreon for continuing to support the channel, as well as voting for this to be our second top 10 video from last week. And I will see you all next time.